bring in Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk Live co-host. Mike, let's start there. Sorry to hit you so early in the morning with something so serious.
Well, no, I just had a bowl of milk with some cereal in it, so that's a perfect segue. Who in the world would put the milk in first? The milk splashes everywhere when you pour the cereal in, and the milk possibly overflows the bowl as you pour the cereal in. No, you put the cereal, then the milk. Right. I've never heard of anyone doing milk then cereal until today.
All right. Well, thank you, Mike. That's all we needed.
Okay,
from
good.
You. Yeah,
good.
All right, so we thought about Florio. As soon as the news happened with Deshaun Watson, we thought, all right, let's see if Mike, even though he's on vacation, can help us here.
It's not vacation, but that's all right. We're on hiatus. I'm still working. It's not a vacation. No days off, just like Bill Belichick.
Okay. Why now? Why did Deshaun Watson settle now?
Well, it's a great question because last week he was asked, are you going to settle the cases? And he says, no, I want to clear my name. I want to see this court process through. And my reaction was, it's too late to clear your name. This has been hanging around for 15 months. There are 24 plaintiffs. 2 more supposedly are suing. Attorney Tony Busby suggested last week there could be even more who will sue. The New York Times identified, not by name, but the number of at least 66 women out there who potentially could at some point get involved in this. So I just think that Deshaun Watson finally realized it was time. And there's no way out of this. You're never going to clear your name. It's just too late. It should have happened before the first case was filed. It should have happened in April of last year. They were ready to get these settled, and it fell apart. He could have settled 18 of 22 lawsuits last October, wanted to do all or nothing. I think he finally realized, I need to knock out as many of these as I can. I need to resolve as many of these as I can, because if you're going to go to trial against 24 different people, that is going to take, if football season's out of play, Dan, that's going to take 2 or 3 years to try all those cases. Now he's down to 4. They ultimately may be down to 0. But by taking 20 of these cases off the table, it accelerates the moment at which this is all going to be over for Deshaun Watson. And I think he's just gotten to the point where he realizes, I need this to be over.
Is this an admission of guilt?
It's never an admission of guilt when you settle a civil claim. And in many cases, what happens is there's a very objective analysis of the situation. How much more is it going to cost me in legal fees to take this case all the way through to a verdict, even if I win? How much will it cost me to resolve this case right now? If it's less or equal and you're buying certainty by settling the case, it's a smart business decision. However, and even though the paperwork will say there is no admission of guilt, I've written hundreds of these documents over the years. It will be very clear. There's no, in any way, shape, or form, acknowledgement of responsibility. People are going to say, well, if you pay anything, you must have done it. If you were innocent, you would fight it. And that's just an inaccurate conclusion. Now, in some cases, it's accurate, but I think as a broad brush blanket statement, it's not accurate. And the other thing too, Dan, if there was just one plaintiff and you put in a confidentiality provision, chances are no one's ever going to talk. With 20 of these folks out there able to hide behind the other 19, any one of them that blabs, I didn't do it, there's 19 others. Somebody eventually is going to say what was paid here. And $100,000 was offered per plaintiff back in October. It'll be interesting to see when we find out the real number, and I think we eventually will, $100,000 plus how much to settle now.
I wonder about settling and if what role the NFL had in maybe advising if you settle, or there's going to be a punishment here. I don't know if it all works together, Mike, and maybe I'm trying to put together a jigsaw puzzle and they're 2 different puzzles.
No, but I think you're right. I think your instincts are right, and we always know that there's a sausage making process behind the scenes, and I think that it was getting to the point, Dan, starting with the HBO story on the case, and then another lawsuit is filed, and then Deshaun Watson's lawyer makes the awkward comment about there's nothing criminal about a happy ending, and then another lawsuit's filed, and then the New York Times story comes out, and it just felt like it was disintegrating. And there had been voices in the league office for a long time that believe Deshaun Watson shouldn't play until all these cases are over. Now, the commissioner took paid leave off the table in March. That doesn't mean it couldn't be put back on. And lately it was feeling to me like, the best outcome is press pause on this guy's career. Let him focus on these 24 cases and counting, and then we'll impose an unpaid suspension after that. I think as a practical matter, and maybe there was a conversation off the grid, and you know how this happens, 3 layers deep, and this conversation never occurred, but it could be somebody from the league office got the message to Watson's camp. Look, what you need to do is settle these cases because there's just too many of them. We can't let this guy play with this many pending legal cases. You're going to settle them eventually, settle them now. And I think that makes it far less likely he will be put on paid leave. Because I was thinking as of last week, paid leave felt like it was inevitable because there was just too much hovering over Deshaun Watson.
It was last Friday when the Washington Post, Mark Maskey, said that, quoting, that expecting a significant punishment for Deshaun Watson. I asked a source, I said, and it's somebody involved in this, I said, what does significant mean to you? And he said, well, my significant is different than what the commissioner's significant is, or Deshaun Watson's camp, or the Cleveland Browns. What do you think is the punishment for Deshaun Watson?
I was told a day before Maskey's report that the NFLPA is bracing for something unprecedented. So, and you got to remember the procedure that's going to be at play here. First, the league proposes a punishment. So they start high. Then independent retired judge gets involved and makes decision. Maybe it's something lower. Then commissioner has jurisdiction over the appeal, and the league can appeal. The league can say, we asked for a year. Judge Robinson, who's going to be in charge of this, said 8 games. We think it should be a year. Commissioner could say, I'll do 12. So there's a back and forth that can happen here. So yeah, you start high because you assume that through this process, the independent disciplinary officer is going to come in lower, and then the commissioner decides what the final outcome is going to be. So it doesn't surprise me that it would be a year. It wouldn't surprise me if it's longer than a year, frankly. The Trevor Bauer suspension by MLB, I think, as a practical matter, resonates in what the NFL does with Deshaun Watson. So I think it will be unprecedented. I think it will be significant. And at the end of the day, Roger Goodell is going to have final say.
He's Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk Live co-host with Chris Sims, the show that precedes ours on Peacock Monday through Friday. Help me understand Daniel Snyder's situation, yet another situation. So he's got one situation going on, and then news came out about another situation where he settled a sexual harassment suit. Why is it that he doesn't get punished for any of this, but Deshaun Watson is going to get punished for this?
Dan, that's a great point. It's a perfect segue to the Snyder situation because we reported last week, and Maskey confirmed this, the NFLPA, when defending Deshaun Watson, one of the defenses will be any discipline of Deshaun Watson must be proportional to discipline imposed on owners who have run afoul of the personal conduct policy, because the conduct policy says in black and white, owners and team management are held to a higher standard. So if Daniel Snyder is punished, and I still don't even know what his punishment is he running the team? Is he not running the team? Who the hell knows? But
it feels like it's punishment to make him run the team.
It's true, especially for the fans. But whatever they did to Snyder and the other 2 owners that the NFLPA is going to pull into this, Robert Kraft, who had a similar, a lot of differences, but some similarities to Deshaun Watson, no punishment, all that anyone knows of. Jerry Jones, the Cowboys owner that had that voyeurism scandal that bubbled up earlier this year involving Rich Dalrymple, the former PR guru of the Cowboys, never investigated by the league, never punished by the league as far as anyone knows. Who knows how broadly that scandal went? We don't know. So the union is going to push very aggressively the idea, whatever you do to these guys, it's got to be more than what you do to Deshaun Watson. So we have to view the final punishment through that prism. And what it does as a practical matter, it draws these guys into this fight, and they're not going to want that. Yeah. So it puts pressure on the league that may not have otherwise been there. But as to Snyder, look, today's the hearing before the House Oversight Committee, and the commissioner issued a lengthy statement this morning. He's going to testify. He's going to get some tough questions, and he can't do his press conference tap dance where somebody asks a question, he doesn't answer it, and then somebody else asks a question about something completely different, and he never gets pressed to truly and fully answer a question.
What are the legal consequences of this hearing?
Well, ostensibly what Congress is looking to do is explore possible legislation that could be aimed at improving the workplace experience for people coast to coast. And already 2 bills have been introduced by the chairperson of the committee as it relates to the use of non-disclosure agreements in the workplace setting and the use of images of the employee that are harvested in the course of employment. Because one of the issues here, one of the many issues, what was done with some outtakes of a cheerleader video that ended up allegedly with upper management of the team for their entertainment, apparently. But the bottom line is Congress does have this authority. When you consider, I had this conversation with someone yesterday because the knee-jerk reaction by so many is Congress have better things to do. Well, they have other things to do, but they're capable of doing many things. And when the NFL, number one, is the beneficiary of a 50-year, almost 60-year broadcast antitrust exemption that allows it to go out and sell its TV rights in bulk. And when the NFL is the one thing that is left in this country that can pull 20, 30, 40 million people together and watch the same thing at the same time, nothing else does that anymore. There's some scrutiny that goes along with that. So that's where this all comes from. And they're trying to get to the bottom of it. And I applaud them, Dan, because they've been hiding the truth for months now about what really happened. They've buried it. And Congress is trying to get some of it to come to light. And I think it's a good thing.
Before I let you go, Gronk announces his retirement. Didn't sound like an actual retirement announcement, but it was almost like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but if you're asking me today, I'm going to retire. But if Tom calls, then I'll probably... When your agent says...
Yes!
Like Drew Rosenhaus...
I've never seen this before. The agent says, I don't believe my client.
It was like when Charles Barkley said he was misquoted in his autobiography. It's like your autobiography. How are you misquoted? So,
Dan, I think this is the bottom line. The bottom line is the bottom line. I don't think that Gronk is willing to come out and say it. But if they're going to pay him 8, 9, 10 million, when you've got receivers scratching against 30 million per year now, and you look at the weapon that Gronk is, I think for anything less than 15 million, I'm not getting out of bed if I'm Rob Gronkowski. So if you're willing to pay me 8, 9, or 10 million, then I'll show up in November and take that or some prorated amount. You want me there from day one. I want to be paid commensurately with the top tight ends. 15 is the high watermark for tight ends. You got receivers, like I said, getting close to 30. I think it comes down to how much money the Buccaneers are willing to pay. And Gronk's not going to come out and say it because it just looks unseemly. It looks greedy if you say it.
Great stuff, Mike. Once again, right, you're just on hiatus. You're not on vacation.
Hiatus. No days off. ProFootballTalk.com every single day. We have no choice. It's the fruit keeps falling out of the trees every day.
Congratulations on your book, Playmakers, bestseller.
Thanks, pal.
Thank you, Mike. That's Mike Florio.